But what if the amount of reactants not given in stoichiometric quantity? Then whole set of that calculation will arise. We will see that one by one. Let me take the earlier example that nitrogen reacts with hydrogen giving us ammonia. And here we have written 4 different conclusions. So in terms of molecule, this will be 1 molecule, 3 molecules reacts to give 2 molecules of ammonia. Or in terms of mole, this is 1 mole reacts with 3 moles of hydrogen giving us 2 moles of ammonia. In terms of mass, there are 2 nitrogen, so 28 gram, 1 mole is 28 gram, and this is 6 gram. H2 is 2 gram into 3 is 6 gram, and this is 34 grams of ammonia. In terms of volume, if it is gaseous and performed under STP, then the fourth conclusion will be 22.4 liter, 67.2 liter, and 44.8 liter. We can keep it in 1 liter, 3 liter, and 2 liter ratio because minimum ratio is that. Now this is stoichiometric ratio. So if it is not given in this amount, in this case, let us assume I'm going with, let us say, mole 1. So 1 mole needs 3 moles. Definitely 2 moles need 6 moles. It goes in that direction. Minimum ratio is 1:3. But if it is given, let us say, 10 moles. Now what happens? If the question is like 2 moles of nitrogen reacts with 10 moles of hydrogen, and we are asked to calculate how much moles of ammonia is going to form. Now this particular basic stoichiometric ratio is not given in the problem. That we have to conclude. Okay, for any given question, for any given equation, we have to know these 4 conclusions. That won't be given in the problem. So what is given is the random amount of reactants. So 2 moles of nitrogen, 10 moles of hydrogen giving us how many moles of ammonia. If the question is like that, definitely we want ammonia's amount. Then what we have to do is, for comparison, we cannot take either nitrogen or ammonia. We have to nitrogen or hydrogen. We have to check whom we can take, because in this case, who is there in stoichiometric ratio, that we have to check. So for that purpose, the first step will be finding limiting reagent. Now we will see what is limiting reagent, finding limiting reagent. So finding limiting reagent, that is among reactants will be seen, so hydrogen and nitrogen. And from the stoichiometric ratio, we know 1 mole needs 3 moles of hydrogen. And what is given to us is, this is 2 moles and this is 10 moles. Now we have to find out whether 2 and 10 are stoichiometric ratio, are given in stoichiometric ratio or not. For that purpose, you can go for this stoichiometric number. Here look at minimum number. So 1 and 3, this is the least number is 1. 1 mole of nitrogen needs thrice amount of that of hydrogen. So 2 moles of nitrogen, definitely thrice of that. 2 into 3 is 6 moles. So 6 moles needed. So what is given for us is 10 moles. What was needed for us is 6 moles. So what was needed is less than what is given. That means hydrogen is given in excess. Reverse can also be done. Consider the bigger number in stoichiometry as 3. 3 moles of hydrogen needs 1/3 times that of nitrogen. So 10 moles will need 10/3 of nitrogen. So 10/3, we know 3.33 is a 9 and 1 remaining, and again that 3.3 gram. So 3.3 moles. So here, what does that indicate? 3 moles need 1 mole, that means 1/3 times. 10 moles need 10/3 times, that is 3.3 gram. What is required is 3.3 gram, 3 mole, and what is given to us is 2 mole. So given thing is less than what is required, that means this particular is limiting reagent. So remember, if you come to know that one of the reactants is excess in amount, then the other one will be definitely limiting reagent. So here you have to logically calculate which is the limiting reagent. Now why this limiting reagent is needed? Since the amount of reactants given in random amount, we have to check which of the reactant is getting completed first. Because let us see in terms of molecules, if I explain, let us say this is given in 2 and this is, let us say, 7 molecules. So one molecule will take 3 molecules of this and it will give us 2 molecules of ammonia. Another molecule, because there are 2 is there, and it will react with another 3 molecules and it will give you 2 molecules of ammonia. Now nitrogen is not present there, so all that 2 molecules reacted, even though 1 molecule of hydrogen is remaining there after taking 3 molecules with one and another 3 molecules with another one. So now nitrogen, okay, vanished out, it is completely reacted in the process. So that means this 1 molecule will remain unreacted. So the reactant one which gets completed, vanished or reacted first, will stop the reaction. That means how much product is going to form, it will be explained only by limiting reagent. Why? Because limiting reagent is limiting the amount of product, because it is the one reactant which is getting completed in the beginning. So once it get completed, now this any amount of excess molecules will remain as it is. Why? Because there is no other reactant present. So that's why the importance of limiting reagent, okay, come into existence. So this happens when you are not given the important reactants amount in stoichiometric ratio. If it is given is in the form of 1:3, then no need to worry. So everything will be reacting, and after that nothing will be leaving behind. But it is not the case. While giving, they can give any amount of things. There we have to find out which of that reactants is getting consumed completely in the beginning. So that is what called as finding limiting reagent. So for that purpose, whatever given data is there, so that we have to compare. So I'm explaining this again. So given data is 2:10 moles. And remember this 1:3 that we have to get from the balancing of reaction, that won't be given in the problem. So what is given in the problem is only 2 moles and 10 moles. So we have to write the reaction, and thereafter we have to see what is the actual mole ratio, what is the stoichiometric mole ratio. And we come to know that stoichiometric mole ratio is 1:3 and what is given is 2:10. So now out of this we have to find the limiting reagent. To find that, as I told you, first approach will be under stoichiometric ratio, find out the smallest one. So in this case nitrogen is having smaller number, smaller mole. So 1 mole needs 3 times greater, okay, amount of hydrogen there. 2 moles definitely need 6 moles. So yes, 6 moles is available in given data. That means 10 is given. So after 2 moles will consume all the 6 moles of hydrogen and giving us amount of product. And thereafter the remaining 4 moles can't react with nitrogen because nitrogen is not present at all. So that's why this particular is considered as limiting reagent. So limiting reagent will stop the process, stop the reaction, and thereafter once limiting reagent consumed in the process, thereafter you won't get any products. That's why once you come to know about the limiting reagent, now next is we are comparing limiting reagent with the product. So here they are asked the amount of ammonia formed and the limiting reagent came out to be nitrogen. So stoichiometric ratio says that 1 mole of nitrogen needs 2 moles of, give us 2 moles of, 1 mole of nitrogen will give us 2 moles of ammonia, and what is given with us is 2 moles. So 2 moles of nitrogen will give how much of product. So therefore ammonia will be, 1 is giving us 2, that means double. 2 moles will give us 4 moles of ammonia. So this is how we can calculate amount of product formed out of given amount of reactants. If the question was about not about the moles of product formed, that may be in terms of gram, you just tell me. This is also possible. So they may give us data in terms of moles, but they may ask us to calculate the grams of ammonia formed. Now it is very simple. First of all, since given data is in terms of moles, calculate the amount of product in terms of moles only. Thereafter we can convert that into grams. So we know 1 mole of ammonia is 17 grams. So nitrogen is 14 plus 3, 17 grams. But here it is 4 moles. So 4 moles how much? So 4 into 17. In this way we can calculate 68 grams. In this way we can calculate the amount of ammonia formed in terms of grams. Sometimes question can be asked in a way that reactants may not be in the same scale. Sometimes the amount of reactants may not be given in terms of in same unit. That time what we can do is, let us say nitrogen is given in data as 14 grams and hydrogen is given as, let us say 2 moles. Now we are asked to calculate ammonia in terms of how many liters of ammonia formed. Here the given data are in different units and the asked is in terms of liter. In this case what we have to do is we have to convert reactants in same unit and get the product in that unit. Thereafter we can convert into liters. Now most cases what we have to do is whatever given data is there, convert that into moles. That is easy. Why? Because converting mole we have the formula, 3 formulas to given mass can be converted into mole. So 14 divided by nitrogen is 28. This is already in terms of moles. So 14 divided by 28, that is 1 by 2. So 0.5 moles. So now I have converted both the reactants into same unit. So I'll be getting product in terms of mole only. Then I can convert that into volume. So before going for the comparison, we have to know which is the limiting reagent here. So to find out the limiting reagent, what I will do is I will compare both the reactants, nitrogen and hydrogen. So here, since we are talking about mole ratio, 1 mole of nitrogen needs 3 moles of hydrogen. And given data says this is 0.5 mole and this is 2 moles. Now we have to find out first what is the limiting reagent. So for that purpose, as I told you, out of stoichiometric ratio, go for the smallest one. So 1 mole needs 3 times greater. So 0.5 3 times greater is 1.5. So 1.5 moles needed, and given data is more than that. So that means this particular is already given in excess. Whatever is needed for us, which is already there in that. So that means this particular nitrogen is the limiting reagent. Nitrogen is the limiting reagent. Once we get the limiting reagent, we have to compare that with the product. Otherwise we have done reverse also. What is that? So 3 moles of hydrogen gives 1 by 3 amount of needed 1 by 3 amount of nitrogen. 2 moles will divide by 3, so that much amount. So that will be definitely lesser than 0.5. Then it will tell us that 0.5 mole is the limiting reagent. So given here limiting reagent is nitrogen and the product that we have to calculate is ammonia. So mole ratio, 1 mole will give us 2 moles. This we have to know from the stoichiometry, and given data is 0.5 mole and how much product is going to form. So this is 0.5 into 2, so that is 1 mole. So 1 mole of hydrogen ammonia is going to form. 1 mole of ammonia is going to form. What is asked is in terms of volume, and we know that 1 mole of ammonia, otherwise 1 mole of any gas at STP occupies 22.4 liter of that gas. Right now we also got 1 mole, so that means we can express answer as 22.4 liter of ammonia. So finding limiting reagent is the prerequisite to calculate further thing, because unless and until you don't know what is in stoichiometric quantity, you cannot proceed with this. You might have proceeded with 1.5 also. That might have given you the right answer, because you got that 0.5 moles needing 0.5 moles of 1.5 moles of hydrogen. You might have compared here with hydrogen and product. So in this case you have to take 3 moles will give us 2 moles, and in this case we have to take 1.5 moles will give how much? Not the 2 moles, because stoichiometry wise it is noted that 1.5 mole is going to get used there. But forget about the excess one, you can only go with the limiting reagent. So this leads to us to conclude about limiting reagent. It is the reactant present in less quantity as per stoichiometry. As per stoichiometry, it has to present in less quantity. When you look at that time it may look small. It doesn't mean that stoichiometrically it is the less quantity reactant. As per stoichiometry, we have to check whether it is less quantity or not, and gets consumed first in the reaction. And this is that reactant which decides the amount of product formed. So I'll give you one more example to make sure that you know which is reactant we are limiting reagent. So let us say methane and oxygen treating to give form water and carbon dioxide. So already we had written this as 16 gram and this as 64 gram, and this has 44 gram and this has 36 gram. So here, if you understand this, let us say given data is, let us say both are 5 grams. You may find like both are given in equal quantity. Whether it is in the stoichiometric ratio, no, it is not in stoichiometric ratio. That we have to find out. So let us find out that. So stoichiometry says that 60 gram needs 64, that means 4 times greater. So 5 grams of ammonia need 4 times greater, that means what is needed is 20 gram of oxygen. This is what stoichiometry is expecting. So 16 grams ammonia needs 64 grams of oxygen, 4 times more. So 5 grams, 4 times more, that is 20 gram is needed. So that means this 5 gram is given in less quantity. Limiting reagent is oxygen there. Now let us say we are asked to calculate how much grams of CO2 is formed. Then we can compare now limiting reagent with product. So limiting reagent we got as oxygen O2, and that of product is CO2. So here 64 grams gives us 44 grams of carbon dioxide, and that of 5 grams, which is what given there, gives how much? So this is 5 into 44 divided by 64. This is 3.44 grams of CO2 will be formed. If both the reactants are given in stoichiometric quantity, then any reactant can be used to calculate the amount of product formed. Let us say I am saying methane reacting with oxygen giving us CO2 and H2O, and here we know 16 grams needed 64 grams of this, and we are asked to calculate how much amount of CO2 is formed. Now the given data, let us say this has 16 to, let us say this is 34 grams and this is 128 grams. Given data is 32 gram and 128. Here you can understand that they are given in the same stoichiometric quantity. So now any reactant can be used to get the amount of product formed. You can use methane or you can use oxygen to get the amount of CO2. You will get the right answer there, since both the reactants are in stoichiometric quantity. In stoichiometry, we will understand that we have to balance the reaction first. Then only we can go for finding a limiting reagent, and then we can get the amount of product formed there. So that indicates that without balancing the reaction, we cannot do any calculation. There may be some situations where balancing may take longer time, or else balancing may become difficult. Why? Because not enough data might be given. What to do in that case? We can go for something called as POAC, or it is called as principle of atom conservation. So wherever stoichiometric calculation can be done when the enough data is given, or the equation which is there in that is very simple and easy to balance. In that case, stoichiometric calculations are very easy. We can go with that. So we will deal with the situation where otherwise most of the time the natural chemical reactions, where we don't know what all reactants got consumed in the reaction, how many reactants are there in that, and how many products are there in that. So we may not be knowing complete reaction, and if you don't know complete reaction, we never get to know how to balance that reaction. Without balancing, we cannot go ahead. Then we go for something called as principle of atom conservation. It says that in any chemical reaction, atoms of any element neither destroyed nor get created. So it won't get created in the process. If you are doing some chemical reaction, no new atoms are going to get produced. We are not talking about nuclear reactions. In the case of nuclear reactions, yes, new atoms are produced, new elements are produced. But here we are talking about chemical reactions. In chemical reactions, whatever atoms were there in the reactant side, that all atoms will be definitely present in product. Only thing is they now rearranged in a different way and made different products. Otherwise, number of atoms present in the reactant side of that element will be always equal to number of atoms present in the product side. Now we understand this with some example. Suppose question is like this: NaOH reacts with many other reactants and giving us one of the product as Na2SO4. Only data we have is one reactant, that is NaOH, and one product Na2SO4. We are not knowing how it has formed Na2SO4. We are not knowing about other reactants and products. Only data given to us may be all NaOH got converted into Na2SO4. That means all sodium from NaOH have gone to sodium sulfate. Okay, so only this data is given to us. Then what we can do is we can get the amount, maybe question like number of molecules got reacted, number of molecules of NaOH got reacted may be given to us, and we may be asked to calculate how many molecules of Na2SO4 is formed. So we may be asked like this. We can go for moles mass also. Let us start with molecules. And number of molecules of NaOH is given to us, and we are asked to calculate number of molecules of Na2SO4 formed. And this can be very easily done if the reaction was complete. And right now we don't have reaction complete, so only we can go for only we can do is the principle of atom conservation. So here POAC is applied on sodium. Why sodium? Because which is the common element present in both the reactants and products, and it is also mentioned that all the sodium from NaOH got into sodium sulfate. So the data we have is the number of molecules of NaOH. So what we have to do is we have to make sure that number of atoms of sodium in reactant, that is NaOH, is equal to number of atoms of sodium in product. This is what we have to do. We have to equate this, because number of atoms will remain same in both reactants and products. So to equate this, we cannot equate number of molecules of NaOH equal to number of molecules of Na2SO4. That may not be same, because I told you that there is nothing like conservation of molecules exists. We can only equate number of atoms of sodium in the reactants equal to number of atoms of chlorine, number of atoms of sodium in products. So now to make this, let us convert this particular equation as per what is needed. Look at this. If I want to find out number of atoms of sodium in NaOH, what I need to do is I need to find out how many atoms of sodium is present in one molecule into how many molecules given. So that means number of molecules of NaOH is equal to into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule. So if I do this, what I'm going to get is number of sodium atoms in reactant. So we know that one molecule is containing NaOH 1. If the question given data is, let us say, 1000 NaOH molecules, then is that only one sodium is present? No. What we have to do is we have to multiply that 100 with 1. Number of atoms of sodium in one molecule is 1 there. So what we can do is, let us say the given data is 1000 sodium hydroxide molecules are there, and one molecule contains 1 sodium. So then there are total how many sodium atoms in the reactant? 1000 sodium atoms we can say. So number of atoms of sodium in reactant we can write in terms of molecules of NaOH, but what we have to do is number of molecules of NaOH into number of atoms in one molecule has to be multiplied to get the number of atoms of sodium in reactant. And now I equate this with similarly product also, number of molecules of Na2SO4, or in general we can consider this as product, into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule of Na2SO4. So this is equating, this is actually doing number of atoms of sodium in reactant equal to number of atoms of sodium in product. So assume that number of molecules of NaOH given to us is, let us say, 100. So then what we can do is 100 into one molecule of NaOH contains only one. That means reactant side there are how many sodium atoms are present? 100. Even the product side also 100 sodium atoms must be present. But we are asked to calculate molecules of Na2SO4 present. So let me keep it as X, and into how many number of atoms of sodium in one molecule. There are 2 atoms in one molecule. So I can say 2, then X is equal to 100 divided by 2. That means when I say 100 molecules of NaOH completely reacting to give product, and how many molecules of Na2SO4 must form? 50 molecules of Na2SO4 must form. Why we are assuming, why we got like this? Because we have equated number of atoms of sodium present in reactants must be equal to number of atoms of sodium present in the product. So same equation we have written like this: number of molecules of NaOH into number of atoms in one molecule. Similarly, number of molecules of Na2SO4 into number of molecules of Na in one molecule. So that will tell us how much molecules of Na2SO4 is formed. So though we are not knowing the amount of the complete reaction, but we get to know how many molecules of Na2SO4 formed. This is one equation. The other equation is we can convert number of molecules into mole. So how we can convert number of molecules into mole? We know that mole equal to number of particles divided by 6 into 10 raised to 23. This is the basic formula that we have learned. So what I need is, instead of number of molecules, that means number of particles, I want to substitute in terms of mole, because sometimes, not necessarily all the time, molecules will be given. They may say that 10 moles of NaOH reacts to give dash moles of Na2SO4. Then we have to have a mole ratio, not the molecular ratio. What I will do is, we know number of particles can be rewritten as mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23. So that means number of particles can be written as mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23. So I'll substitute here, then I'll get the next formula. So mole of NaOH into 6 into 10 raised to 23 into, that will be there, number of atoms of sodium in one molecule, that we have to multiply, equal to, see, I'm not writing 6 into 10 raised to 23 because even this number of molecules of Na2SO4 will also be mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23. Then this will be mole of Na2SO4 into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule of Na2SO4. So into 6 into 10 raised to 23. So there are 6 into 10 raised to 23 in both the sides. I'm just cancelling out. So that's why 6 into 10 raised to 23 won't be there. So 6 into 10 raised to 23, here also we have to substitute, and here also we have to substitute. Then I just cancelled. So this is another formula that you have to remember. So mole can also be equated like this. Now once we get to know about mole, then one more we know, we can also write in terms of mass. How it is that mole can be written as given mass of NaOH divided by gram molecular mass. This is what called as mole, gram molecular mass of NaOH, into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule, equal to, this is also can be written as given mass of Na2SO4 divided by gram molecular mass of Na2SO4 into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule. So this is another formula. Actually we are writing, these all are the different forms of number of atoms of sodium in reactant. we are converting that into in terms of molecules. Then I need to multiply number of atoms in one molecule. I've converted number of molecules into mole just by rearranging this. Now I've converted mole into given mass upon molecular mass. So this is another formula. Similarly, this mole can also be written as, we know, volume, that is mole is equal to given volume of, in this case NaOH is solid and or solution, NaO2SO4 is this one solid. We cannot apply, this is the third one, we can only apply for volume, gases. But as a given volume of reactant divided by 22.4 liter, as a formula I'm writing here, I'm just replacing mole of reactant. Here remember, I'm not talking about NaOH now, I must talk about gas there. Given volume of reactant upon 22.4 into, this will be there, number of atoms of sodium in one molecule. If I multiply, then it becomes number of atoms of sodium in that reactant is equal to given volume of product divided by 22.4 liter into number of atoms of Na in one molecule. So you can understand here 22.4 liter that can be get divided, that can be cancelled. So then we can say volume of reactant into number of atoms of one molecule, number of atoms of sodium in one molecule equal to given volume of product into number of atoms of sodium in one molecule of product. So remember, this is only applicable for gases, can be done for gases. Here I have taken NaOH and Na2SO4 as an example, so you cannot apply here, but in general we can convert mole into this. These are the different forms, whichever is needed for you, you can calculate. Sometimes question can be asked like mole of NaOH will be given and you are asked to calculate how much amount of Na2SO4 formed. Then in the left hand side you can keep the formula as mole of that reactant into this. In the RHS side you can split that mole into given mass upon gram molecular mass. So any combination is fine, you can get the value of product. So let us conclude POAC here. So there are many formulas. In fact, they are just simplified formulas. So what we have to do is, we have to equate number of atoms of one particular element in the reactant with the number of atoms of that element in a product. But we have to make sure whatever reactant we are taking, all that reactant, that atom elements must come in that product. If they got distributed in two different products, then we have to add both the products there, then we can equate number of atoms. So to make this particular equation hold true, what we can do is, or in the problem they may not be giving you in terms of atoms, we have already seen, they may give you in terms of molecules, they may give you in terms of mole or mass or number of volume. So then what you have to do, we have to convert this particular data into something else. Now I have told you already, we know NaOH, or I'll go for some gas now, let us say NH3, and NH3 is becoming in some way, let us say it is becoming nitrogen. Now this is gas and this is gas, we are not given what is happening here, only the one reactant and one product is given to us. So what I can do is, number of atoms of an element in reactants, that means if I am applying, let us say POAC for nitrogen, number of nitrogen atoms in reactant must be equal to number of nitrogen atoms in product. So this has to be taken care of. But if the question is like 100 molecules of ammonia reacts to form dash molecules, yeah, how many molecules of nitrogen? If the question is like this, then we have to find out, okay, one ammonia is containing one nitrogen. What about 100 molecules? Then 100 into number of atoms in one molecule, that is 1 I need to make. Then what is this 100? 100 was number of molecules. So number of molecules of reactant into number of atoms of that element in one molecule has to be multiplied. In this case that is 1. So 100 into 1 equal to, here also same thing we have to do, number of atoms of that element in the product. Here we are going to apply nitrogen, POC on nitrogen. So number of molecules was X, we are not knowing, that is what asked to calculate, but we have to multiply with number of atoms in one molecule, that is 2. So we can get now number of molecules formed. So this formula is used wherever in terms of molecule is given. Now if data is not in terms of molecules, if it is in terms of mole, then what we have to do, we have to convert this number of molecules into mole. And we know how to convert number of molecules into mole. We had the formula, that is mole equal to given number of particles divided by 6 into 10 raised to 23. So I am substituting number of molecule as number of particles. So in the case of number of given particles, I need to substitute mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23. So I have substituted number of molecules as mole of reactant into 6 into 10 raised to 23. I can multiply. Similarly, here also number of molecules will be written as mole of the product into 6 into 10 raised to 23. So that 6 into 10 raised to 23 will get cancelled. So now we got the another equation. Instead of, let us say there the question is like 0.1 moles of ammonia reacts to give how many moles of ammonia, nitrogen, and we don't know about the complete reaction. Then what we can do is 0.1 we are substituting as mole into number of atoms of that element. Then how many is there? 1. So then it becomes 0.1 into 1 equal to, now mole of the product, which is X, into number of atoms will be 2. So we'll come to know about number of moles of product formed there. So not necessarily in both the cases you have to convert into mole. If the question is like given data is mole and we are asked to calculate number of molecules, then the left hand side will be kept as moles and the right hand side can be kept like this because they are equal. So then what happens, here you can keep this as number of molecules, no problem. But in that case you have to remember, you cannot cancel out this 6 into 10 raised to 23. We have to keep that. So because we have to keep this because we are not converted both the cases into mole. There we have to keep this 6 into 10 raised to 23 with that. And we know mole can be written as given mass upon molecular mass or gram molecular mass. So I have rewritten mole as given mass upon gram molecular mass of the reactant, and this will remain same. Here also given mass upon gram molecular mass. So again the same thing. Question can be like, let us say 10 gram of ammonia reacts to give dash moles of nitrogen. In that case, LHS can be kept in terms of given mass upon gram molecular mass and the product can be kept as mole. Here nothing to worry. Why? Because mole is equal to given mass upon molecular mass. You can keep this as mole, no problem. So then what happens, this 10 gram divided by gram molecular mass, that is 17, into number of nitrogen is 1 equal to X into 2. So this X is mole. Directly you can get mole there. If you want to get mass, then you can go for this. That is X upon nitrogen is 28. So now you can get the amount of grams of N2 formed there. So similarly, if it is gaseous reaction, then we can consider 1 mole as 22.4 liter. So given volume upon 22.4 liter into reactant is equal to this. I have converted mole as given volume upon 22.4 liter. Now in both the cases you are converting mole as given volume upon 22.4 and given volume upon 22.4. You can cancel out this 22.4 and volume can be equated. But if you are keeping here given volume upon 22.4 and here you are keeping given mass upon gram molecular mass, then you have to keep this 22.4 liter. Here also same thing, mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23, mole into 6 into 10 raised to 23. You have to keep if you are interchanging these formulas. Now let us solve problems on stoichiometry. The first question is, what quantity of limestone on heating will give you 56 kg of calcium oxide? So here we have to know the chemical equation, that is calcium carbonate is becoming calcium oxide plus CO2. We are asked to calculate how much amount of limestone will give us 56 kg of calcium oxide. So we have to find out how many grams of calcium oxide. For that purpose we have to first balance the equation. Equation is already balanced. Now here mass ratio is taken because the given data is in terms of gram. So calcium is 40, carbon is 12, oxygen is 3 into 16, that is 100 grams. Calcium is 40, oxygen is 16, that is 56 grams, and this is 44 grams. So mass ratio says us that 100 grams of calcium carbonate decomposes to give 56 gram of calcium oxide and 44 gram of CO2. So to get 56 kg, definitely this has to be 100 kg. If you have 100 kg of calcium carbonate, then it will give us 56 kg of calcium oxide after decomposition. Look at next question, where it is said as 2 mole of hydrogen sulfide and 11.2 liter of SO2 at NTP reacts to form X mole of sulfur, and that X mole is. So here equation is given to us, SO2 plus 2H2S giving us sulfur plus water. So equation is given to us already in balanced form. So here given data is random, so SO2 and H2S is 2 moles and this is 11.2 liter, and we are asked to calculate how many moles of sulfur. So now, as I told you, that convert things into single unit, so better we just convert this into moles, and this is the volume. So given volume upon 22.4 liter will convert this into mole, and that means this is 0.5 mole and this is 2 moles, and we are asked to calculate the mole of sulfur. Now basic ratio we have to understand here. This is 1 mole and this is 2 moles and this is 3 moles. So find out the limiting reagent. So for finding out limiting reagent we have to compare these two. So 1 mole needs 2 moles, that means double. So 0.5 moles need 1 mole, but given is 2 moles, which is already given in excess quantity. So this is the limiting reagent here. So 0.5 mole needs only 1 mole, but it is given 2 moles there. Now I am comparing limiting reagent with the product. So limiting reagent was SO2 and the sulfur is a product. So 1 mole give us 3 moles of this. So 0.5 moles will be how much? So 1 mole 3 times more. So 0.5 3 times more will be 1.5 mole is the answer. Next question says, how many grams of phosphoric acid would be needed to neutralize 100 grams of magnesium hydroxide? So here we have to write the reaction first. So magnesium hydroxide plus phosphoric acid is giving us magnesium phosphate plus water. We have to balance this reaction. So this is 3, this is 2, 2 3s are 6, this is 3. 3 plus 3, 6. So this is the balance reaction. What is given to us is 100 grams of magnesium hydroxide. Given data is 100 grams and we are asked how many grams of phosphate is needed. Here we are not interested in the product form, we are here interested in how many grams of reactant phosphoric acid is needed. So first we have to calculate molecular mass of magnesium hydroxide. So that is 24 plus 17 into 2, this is 34, 58 grams. And phosphoric acid H3PO4, so 3 plus 31 plus 4 into 16, that is 98. So 3 into 58 and 2 into 98. So this is what amount of reactants needed if you are taking in stoichiometric ratio. So 100 grams need how much? So this is straight away cross multiplication here. So 100 into 2 into 98 divided by 3 into 58. So this will give us answer as 112.6 grams. Next question says that if 2 moles of methanol completely burns to carbon dioxide and water, the weight of water formed is about. So methanol burning is actually CH3OH plus O2 giving us CO2 plus H2O. So stoichiometric calculations will be always done after balancing. So this is 2, this is 3, this is 2 and this is 4. So this will be the balance reaction. Now what is asked is, if I am taking 2 moles of methanol, how many CO2 is going to form? Now how many amount of water is going to form? Weight of water. So we need grams of water here. So stoichiometry says that 2 moles of methanol gives us 4 moles of water. So initially we'll get the data in terms of mole only, though we are asked to calculate grams because everything is in mole. So then mole will be equal to 2 into 4 divided by 2, that is 4 moles. So we know 1 mole of water is equal to 18 grams. Oxygen is 16, hydrogen is 2, 2 plus 16, 18 grams. So 4 moles will be equal to how much? So 4 into 18, 72 grams. So next question says that in an experiment it is found that 2.0769 grams of X produces 3.6769 grams of pure H2O5. The number of moles of X is. So we don't know much about this reaction, only we know is this one. X is giving us H2O5, where the mass of them is given, this has 2.07 grams and this has 3.67 grams. Only this much we know, and we are asked to calculate how many moles. To get the moles of this, what we know is mole of X is actually given mass upon molecular mass. Given mass upon molecular mass can be done, gram molecular mass or atomic mass. And given mass is, we are knowing 2.07, but we don't know gram molecular mass because this is an unknown material. To get that, what we can do is we can apply POAC on X. We can calculate POAC on X. So what I will do is I will relate mole with this. So given mass upon gram molecular mass of X into number of atoms is 1 there, equal to given mass upon gram molecular mass into 2. Now given mass is given as 2.07, this can be written as simply 2, not much difference will happen. And gram molecular mass, I'll keep it as M because we need that so that we can get the mole of X, into 1 is equal to given mass is 3.7 upon gram molecular mass, that is 2m plus 5 into 16 into 2. So gram molecular mass of H2O5 can be written as 2 times molecular mass of X plus 5 into 16. So here 2 will get cancelled. So this is 1 upon m equal to 3.7 upon 2m in plus 80. So here we can correlate it as, let us say 2m plus 80 is equal to 3.7m. So 2m minus 3.7m equal to minus 80. 1.7m equal to minus 80. M equal to 80 minus 1.7. This is almost 48. So once we get amount as 48, now we can get the mole, that is 2.07 upon 48. So this is come out to be 0.04 mole. So to get the mole of X, we have to first know the molecular mass. Since it was unknown, we have to go for POAC formula here. Next question says that 2.7 gram of silver carbonate on being heated strongly yields a residue weighing. So here we have to know that Ag2CO3 is strongly heated. When carbonate of silver is strongly heated, it will give us silver along with the byproduct of carbon dioxide and oxygen. But since reaction is not given, you no need to know also. Only thing we have to know is the weighing of product. So rest all are gases. Even you get CO2 and all O2, they are gases, so they won't weigh, they will simply go away. So we have to apply POAC on Ag. So amount of Ag we want. So this is given mass upon gram molecular mass of Ag2CO3 into number of silver. So there are 2 equal to, this is, we don't know, X gram divided by 108 is the gram atomic mass into number of atoms 1. So 2.7 gram of silver carbonate is given. So 2.7 upon gram molecular mass 2 into 108. 108 is atomic mass of silver into carbonate, carbon 12, oxygen 3 into 16, 60 into number of atoms 2 equal to amount of silver we don't know, that is X, divided by gram atomic mass is 108 into 1. So X equal to 2.7 into 2 into 108 divided by 2 into 108 plus 60. So this is 2.11 gram. So here also we have used principle of atom conservation because we were not knowing the reaction and we were not knowing the detail. Well, no need to balance the reaction also. If you don't know the reaction, we cannot balance that. So here the reaction was simple. We were knowing that CO2 and O2 are the byproducts because it is strongly heated and only the solid thing that can remain is the silver, pure silver. So we have applied POAC for silver. Now let us move further to something called as percentage composition. Here we are going to calculate percentage of individual element in the molecule. Let me just take an example of, let us say, sodium sulfate. Here first we can calculate percentage of sodium, we can calculate percentage of sulfur and percentage of oxygen separately because there are 3 different elements are present. For that, what you have to do is first we have to calculate the molecular mass. So 23 into 2, that is the contribution of sodium, plus 32, there are only 1 sulfur, plus 16 into 4. So this is 139. 139 gram is the total mass. So 139 is the total, 100% we can say, 100% composition. Now if I want to calculate the percentage of sodium, I need to check out of 139 how much it is contributing. It is contributing 23 into 2 and that is how much. So this becomes 23 into 2 into 100 divided by 139. So this is how we can calculate the percentage composition of sodium, that is come out to be 33%. So here what we have done, out of 139, sodium's contribution in terms of gram we have to get. So that is 23 into 2 is coming out from sodium, so that is how much percentage. Similarly we can also go for oxygen or sulfur. So percentage of sulfur can be written as 139 gram is 100% and that of 32 into 1 is how much percent. Then this will be 32 into 1 into 100 divided by 139. So this is how we can calculate percentage of sulfur, that is come out to be 23%. Similarly 139 gram is 100% and percentage of oxygen will be 16 into 3 is how much percent? So this is 16 into 3 into 100 divided by 139. So if you calculate this, we'll get this as 46%. So we can calculate percentage of individual element in the compound. So from this formula, we can generalize one formula here. In general, what we can do, if you want to calculate percentage of any element in the molecule, look at this. Here 23 is the atomic mass of that element, into this 2 is number of atoms in that molecule, into 100 divided by is the gram molecular mass. So I can say percentage of element is equal to atomic mass of that element into number of atoms in one molecule into 100 divided by gram molecular mass. So this formula will help us to calculate percentage of any element in that particular compound. So here also you can cross check. 16 is the atomic mass of oxygen, 3 is number of oxygen atoms into 100 divided by gram molecular mass. In the case of sulfur, 32 is the atomic mass and into number of atoms is 1 into 100 divided by gram molecular mass. So this formula will give us the calculation to give percentage of element. This formula not only used to calculate percentage composition of individual element, this can also be used to get the formula of a compound. Reverse calculation. If question like this is given, then we can use this formula to get the formula of vitamin C. So percentage of carbon is given as 40.6, percentage of hydrogen is given as 4.54, and percentage of oxygen is given as 54.54, and the molar mass is given 176. We are asked to calculate the formula of vitamin C. We know that vitamin C contains carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. We just don't know the amount of number of carbon atoms, number of hydrogen and number of oxygen atoms. So if I apply the formula, above formula for carbon, percentage carbon must be equal to atomic mass of carbon into number of atoms, that is we represented as X, into 100 divided by 176. So 12 into X into 100 divided by 176, this is percentage of carbon given as 40.9. Now similarly we can get percentage of hydrogen as 1 is the atomic mass into Y is the number of atoms into 100 divided by 176 is the gram molecular mass. So here percentage of hydrogen is 4.54 equal to 1 into Y into 100 divided by 176. Similarly, percentage of oxygen will be equal to 16 is the atomic mass, number of oxygen atoms Z into 100 divided by 176. So percentage of oxygen is 54.54 is equal to 16 into Z into 100 divided by 176. When you do this, you will get here X as 6 and here Y as 8 and here Z as 6. Then we will get the formula C6H8O6. This becomes a molecular formula of vitamin C. Here this is very straightforward. We can directly get the formula if you know the percentage of them. So this is the easiest way to get the formula. Alternatively, there is one more method to get the formula of any compound if the percentage is given. That is we have to make one table here. We have to make one table where the first column will be element name and their percentage and gram and mole. Thereafter simplest ratio. simplest ratio. Now we will see what is this. So element given as carbon, hydrogen and oxygen, percentages given as 40.9, and this has 4.54, and this has 54.54. So if I assume gram molecular mass as 100, I'm just assuming, I know that gram molecular mass is 176 there. If I'm assuming gram molecular mass as 100 gram, then whatever percentage is given, that will be straight away becomes that many grams, because total mass as well as total percentage is 100. Then whatever percentage is there, that will become that many grams. Once we get to know about the grams, then we can easily convert into mole, that is given mass upon gram molecular mass or gram atomic mass. So 40.9 upon for carbon, that is 12, 4.54 upon for hydrogen, it is 1, oxygen 54.54 upon 16. So here once you calculate, we'll get this as 3.38, something like that, 4.54, and this is also 3.4. So once we get the mole, now we have to get simplest ratio, and simplest ratio can be calculated simply by dividing with the smallest number. So out of these three, the smallest number is 3.38, or it can be considered as 4 also for that matter. So this is 4.54 upon 3.38, 3.38, and this is 3.4 upon 3.38, and this becomes 1, and this becomes 1.3, and this becomes 1. So again 4.54 upon 3.38 is becoming 1.3. So now we have to multiply with some number, and that will convert them into whole number. So if I multiply with 1, no change. If I multiply with this 2, now what happens? This will become 2, and this will become 2.6, and this will become 2. Again, this is not a whole number, so I cannot multiply with 2. I need to multiply with 3 now. When I multiply with 3, this is 3, and this becomes 2.9. Sorry, this becomes 3.9, and this is almost 4, and this becomes 3. So we got C3H4O3. So this is the minimum ratio or simplest ratio of elements in the molecule, and this is called as empirical formula. This is called as empirical formula. Empirical formula nothing but minimum number of carbon atoms, minimum ratio of atoms must be present in a molecule. There is no practical existence of this. There is nothing like C3H4O3 vitamin C exists. So this is for theoretical purpose we use simplest ratio, empirical formula. Now to get molecular formula, there is one formula called as molecular formula equal to empirical formula into some n factor. Okay, n factor, where n factor is calculated by using the formula, that is gram molecular mass upon empirical formula mass. Empirical formula mass. So gram molecular mass is already given. If it is not given, we can only reach till empirical formula. We cannot go beyond this. By using this formula, if you are following this route, you can only end up with having empirical formula. We cannot get molecular formula. The earlier method, if 176 gram molecular mass is not given, then we cannot calculate. We cannot calculate. Why? Because that formula has we have to substitute gram molecular mass there. So without this, we cannot go with this formula to get the molecular formula. But in this case, we can at least reach till empirical formula, because till now we have not reached 176. But to get the exact molecular formula, there is one equation called as molecular formula equal to empirical formula into n factor, where n factor is equal to gram molecular mass, that is 176, divided by empirical formula mass. We have to calculate the empirical formula mass, 12 into 3 plus 4 into 1 plus 3 into 16. So how many carbon, hydrogen, oxygen are there? So I'm just taking them and calculating the mass of them. So that is come out to be 88. So divide by 88, this gives us 2 n factor. Now if I use this formula, so molecular formula will be, empirical formula is C3H4O3. Now I am going to multiply with 2, then that is C6H8O6. This becomes a molecular formula. So in this route, yes, it is lengthiest method to get the molecular formula here, but in this case you can at least reach till empirical formula, though molecular mass is not given. But in the earlier equation, in this equation, this must be given, then only you can go for that formula. If this is not given, by this method you can reach till empirical formula. And sometimes questions are asked to calculate empirical formula only. They won't ask us to calculate molecular formula, they just ask us to calculate empirical formula. In that case, this is of no use. You have to go with this method and you have to reach till empirical formula. And for molecular formula, if molar mass is given, I will recommend you have to just to go with this formula, because this is way large. And one more thing is, this particular is not coming in whole number, let us say, then you keep on multiplying different numbers. So, and there are so much calculations involved here, then only you can get the whole number. Now remember when to multiply this whole number, when this simplest ratio is not coming out to be whole number. Remember, if it is 1.1 or 1.2, you can make it as 1, no problem. If it is 1.8 or 1.9, you can make it as 2. But in between, from 1.3 to 1.7, you cannot convert anywhere. Then what you have to do is, you have to multiply with some number, thereby you have to convert them into 0.8, 0.9 or 0.1, 0.2. Then you can get the actual formula, empirical formula there. Now let us move to percentage yield. Percentage yield is different than that of percentage composition. Here, let us understand with some example. Nitrogen reacting with hydrogen giving me ammonia. Okay, now let us say both are given as 5 gram. Okay, and as per the formula we know 28 grams need 6 gram of this, and it is giving us 34 grams of ammonia. Let me, for the time being, let me take the given data is this one itself. Okay, given data is this one only. But given data, instead of 34 grams, maybe it is given as, let us say, 30 grams. 28 grams of nitrogen reacts with 6 grams of hydrogen, giving us 30 grams of ammonia. And asks us to calculate what is the percentage yield. What is the percentage yield? Now, what we have to do is, stoichiometrically what is required, how much amount of product is going to form, that we have to find out. So stoichiometrically we know 28 gram of nitrogen reacts with 6 gram of hydrogen, giving us ammonia as 34 gram. This is by theory, we expect that 34 grams of ammonia must form. But what is given is 28 gram of nitrogen, 6 gram of hydrogen, but 30 gram of ammonia. Now here 34 gram is called as theoretical yield, or it is called as calculated yield. So by calculation or by theory you have to get 34 grams. By stoichiometry you have to get 34 gram. But what was got is 30 gram. This is called as actual yield, or which is also called as experimental yield. Experimental yield. Now percentage yield can be got how? 34 gram is expected. If we are getting 34 gram, then that means 100% yield. And 34 gram when we take 28 gram of nitrogen and 6 gram of hydrogen. But what was got is 30 gram. So then how much is this? So 30 gram into 100 divided by 34 becomes percentage yield, where 30 is actual yield and 34 is theoretical yield into 100. So then the formula becomes percentage yield is equal to theoretical yield upon percentage yield is equal to actual yield upon theoretical yield into 100 will give us percentage yield. Or by using the other words, that is experimental yield upon calculated yield into 100. This will give us percentage yield. What exactly we are doing is, here there are two calculations. One is by stoichiometrically how much must be formed, that you have to calculate. Without the problem also we can calculate that. This theoretical yield or yield can be calculated by stoichiometry, but that of actual yield or experimental yield must be given in the problem, because this can be any amount. This can be any amount that we have to substitute over here. Theoretical yield we have to calculate. Question says that percentage yield we have to calculate. Question says that 90% calcium carbonate, that is limestone, 90% limestone we have taken is 10 gram limestone, and which is actually 90% pure calcium carbonate. So we are asked to calculate calcium oxide formation. So if you write the formula, CaCO3 gives us calcium oxide plus CO2. So this is the reaction, and earlier only we have seen that this is 100 gram and this is 56 gram and this is 44 grams. So given data is 10 gram. You cannot use this as 10 gram here, because all 10 gram is not calcium carbonate. So 10 gram is actually limestone. So limestone is the mixture of many other impurities. So it is containing largely calcium carbonate, that is 90% pure. So first of all, we cannot keep this as 10 gram. We have to calculate that. So if limestone and the percentage of calcium carbonate, if limestone is 100 gram, then out of 100 gram 90 gram will be calcium carbonate, because 90% purity. So if limestone is 10 gram, then definitely calcium carbonate will be 9 gram. So here you have to use 9 gram, not 10 gram. So then you can now calculate. So this is 9 into 56 divided by 100. So we can calculate it as 5.04 gram.